Hey hey all, welcome to Monday, welcome to Countdown Day, and today we have the results for the top 10 Transformers that are the most overpriced, that give you the least bang for your buck. That does not mean scalpers and aftermarket pricing, that's its own different thing. Maybe there's a list there about worse scalped Transformers? I don't know, we'll see. This is the most overpriced regular MSRP. What ones just don't live up to the asking price? That's going to be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course subscribe, and while you are at it, light them up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. Helps me out a ton. Let you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that is in the description down below. Also in the description down below. And if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through spring. Or, of course, hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. So, like I said, this is the top 10 Transformers that offer the least bang for your buck. I had to exclude aftermarket and like scalper pricing because some people were like, well, I've seen such and such and this and that go for $150 or $200. And I'm like, yes, but that's an insane amount. Nobody should ever pay that for like a deluxe, right? That's not what this was about. This was about something that was released. It had an MSRP, but like it's overpriced. It shouldn't have been sold for that. I'm thinking now that doing the aftermarket, doing the worst scalped Transformers maybe, could be its own separate list. Maybe that'll be next week. So this is ones that just didn't live up to the price tag when they were released, when they initially came out. That said, we have one honorable mention, who's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. And that honorable mention is Siege Greenlight. That was an Amazon exclusive. Now, a lot of people said, yeah, she goes for crazy money on the aftermarket. And I'm like, yes, but that wasn't her MSRP when she was released. I said, however, the argument might be made that maybe you don't think she lives up to the MSRP. Unlike other deluxe fembots at the time, she came with a little Battle Master. And she was priced, I can remember now, the other ones were priced at like 20 at the time, Canadian. So 19.99 Canadian. Like if you went and got Lancer or, well, no, not so much Lancer. Moonracer is the one I was thinking that was everywhere. And say like Nova Storm, I think that's her name. I think they call her Firestorm, Firestar, Nova Star. I can't remember now. But like the regular deluxe class pricing in Canada at the time was $19.99 for Power of the Primes. However, Amazon, when they released Greenlight, released her at $60, $59.99. So I said, if you think that $60 for Greenlight is too much, then you can still vote for her. And a lot of people said, yeah, for a deluxe, that's too much anyway. And I agree. So Greenlight, yes, she's terrible in the aftermarket because scalpers like to scalp, but she is overpriced anyway. At $60 for a deluxe, that was insane even in 2018. And she is our one and only honorable mention. Did not make the list, so who did? You know what we're going to do? We're going to kick things off with number 10, Burst. Kicking us off at number 10, we have this. It is Robosen Optimus Prime, and I believe the main Optimus was something like $750 US, and I think if you wanted the trailer that came a little bit later, it was also $750, so we're talking about $1,500. And honestly, I've seen a 10-minute video, and at the end of that, I was like, yeah, that's cool, it's neat. I saw it do all the things that it does. I'm done. $1,500 for 10 minutes of entertainment. It's not enough for me, but that being said, myself and the voters do understand that this is robotics, this is programming, this is a high level of engineering, obviously, because the thing rolls, the thing stands, the thing dances, it talks, it has the voice clips, it does it all. And for a niche, I think, pocket of collectors who have the disposable income, I really think it's a special thing. The fact that it exists, I think, is amazing. But I also understand the side of the voters who said, you know what, man, it's just not that much bang for your buck. Yeah, everything is amazing, but it's getting kind of repetitive after 10 or 15 minutes. And do I really want to spend $1,500 US for 10 or 15 minutes of fun? For that reason, fans voted for Robosen Optimus Prime at the number 10 slot. Coming in at number 9, we go Titanic with the reissue of Fortress Maximus. Now, the Titans Return Fortress Maximus, when it came out originally, it was a little bit of a higher Titan class price than we had been used to with with Metroplex, certainly in 2013, and even with Devastator in 2015, and this came out in 2016. Here in Canada, it was $179, which was a bit too much, no doubt about it, but I justified it and said, Metroplex was $134, this is $179, and it has more bulk and mass in the body, as well as a completely separate headmaster unit and another separate headmaster unit. So I was like, yeah, it's a bit much, but like I'm happy with it. Those that weren't happy with that price said, but his ship mode is just so boring. And it is, but so is the actual design, honestly, if you look at the cartoon. His base mode is wrong. He's just lying down and doing the splits. True, even though you can do a number of like fan modes for the base. However, the reissue that recently came out, I don't know what the price is in the US, but I know it's $279 in Canada. That's kind of in the ballpark for what the current pricing is on Titan class offerings. But for a Titan that a lot of people say feels more hollow, for a Titan that a lot of people say doesn't have very dynamic alt modes, he feels a little less than for a price that's a little more than he should be. And for that reason, Fort Max takes the number 9 slot. Coming in at number 8, we have this guy. It is 86 Bumblebee, who is great, and I even reviewed it. I had it in hand. Maximal 10 owns this guy, and it was on loan to me to review. That's why I don't have it in hand now. I've returned it to him since. Great Bumblebee. Better than I thought it was going to be. I still think the chest is too square. But taking that subjective gripe out of it, all in, the guy's about 53, 55 grams of plastic. It is small, even by the reduced deluxe standard. So a traditional deluxe would say 84 grams. I would say in the modern era, we've sort of settled at about 77 grams for a deluxe. Some are 72, which I have a gripe with. But then now you're getting down to 53, 55, 58. Black Arachnia's 38. It's so sad. And people that like this will say, yeah, but the engineering's better. And I agree, the engineering is better. It's a good Bumblebee, no doubt about it. But you know what everybody says? And I think I even said this in the review. Everybody said the same thing. Bumblebee is great, but he should actually be a Scout class offering. Maybe we gotta bring back Scout class as a size class, because everybody said the same thing. It's wonderful, but it's not really a deluxe, and they're charging a deluxe price. That's the only problem, and that's why you don't get the best bang for your buck. A great B, just not enough for a true blue deluxe, and he takes the number 8 slot. Coming in at number 8, we go back to Transformers, War for Cybertron Kingdom, and Commander Class Rodimus Prime. And those that voted for this guy said, look, he's obviously a Voyager. Somebody said he's not a big Voyager. Yes, he is. He's a very big Voyager. He has a ton of bulk. I'm sorry, I can't just let that one slide. If you think this is a small Voyager, then you haven't handled him, because he's not. However, they said he's, in essence, a Voyager sold at a Commander price. Even with his trailer and stuff, they said that's not quite enough to justify a Commander class price. I find that very interesting that this guy had a bunch of votes, but I only had one vote for Motormaster, who's essentially the same thing, and less mass than all of this kit, and no votes for Studio Series 86 Ultra Magnus, who is significantly less mass than all of the Rodimus Prime kit. The entirety of Commander Class Rodimus Prime, every blast effect, his sword, everything in the trailer, all of the trailer itself, and all of this guy, clocks in at 600 grams of plastic. He has a ton of paint. The Ultra Magnus is only 521 grams of plastic and doesn't have as much paint as this. That said, I do think that both are within the realm of Kingdom. But interpretation speaks an awful lot to value. And a lot of fans interpret this guy as not being a commander class value. The math might say one thing, but the practicality of seeing it, handling it, says another thing. Just because a company can do something doesn't necessarily mean they should do something. This was a gamble. I think they could have made it leader class with a smaller trailer, and I don't think you needed all of the doodads. I feel like that there could have been a compromise here to make this guy just a little bit better. That said, I adore him. Do I think he was worth the full value? Yes, but the fans don't, and that's what matters here. And for that reason, Kingdom Rodimus Prime takes the number 8? No, sorry, 7 slot. At number 6, we kind of stick with the same theme, sorta, kinda. Because at number 7 we had Rodimus Prime, but at number 6 we have 86 Hot Rod. And I've harped on this for 5 years. People still jump down my throat about it, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to say it, I'm objectively right, and your defense of this is objectively wrong. It is a mediocre deluxe. All of this on the back, all of the blast effects, the matrix, every single solitary thing in that box has this guy clock in at 77 grams of plastic. When you take the blasters off, when you take the matrix away, when you take the blast effects away, he clocks in at something like 58 or 60 grams of plastic. We talked about mass earlier, and I said then a deluxe nowadays is about 77 grams. And when this guy was shown in reviews, everybody compared him to the Classics and to the Titan's Return, both of which were deluxes. But this guy was sold as a Voyager. And that means he would have to be as good or better than things like Cyclonus and Optimus Primal. And he's not. I have seen reports of breakage of the little visor up under the top of his head. Seen reports of breakage of the center peg on his smoke stack things. I have seen reports of breakage at the hinges for the lower legs because the plastic is like paper thin. Not one hinge, not one joint, not at the knees, not at the elbows, not at the shoulders, not even here on the back of the car. None of them are the correct color. This is, again, something I have to clarify. It does not mean I hate the figure because everybody thinks I hate this guy. I think he's a passable, mediocre deluxe. He's fine, but there's nothing special about the engineering. There's not nearly enough paint. There is nothing, not one thing that has ever been said, not one excuse that's ever been given that is going to justify this guy as a Voyager. He's not. He's an absolute failure as a Voyager. He's an okay deluxe. That's the reality. You don't have to like me saying it, but the facts are the facts and the math don't lie. For being overpriced, Hot Rod takes the number 6 slot. And now a hush falls over the crowd because we've reached the ever coveted, ever popular halfway mark. And at the halfway mark we have this. This is actually the Earthrise Starscream, but that's not what number 5 is, though there were votes for this guy. Number 5 is actually Coronation Starscream. Now I know I'm showing the Earthrise one here. So let's talk about the difference of value because this was sold as a Voyager. And it's a less than Voyager. I get a lot of people love it, but no waist, hollow back of the arms, the wings don't have as much movement to them as the Siege. What's up with all of this left on the side of his leg? That's not accurate. The knees like to come untabbed. Like there's like I do this and like the knee just comes untabbed. There are issues with this mold. I digress. Even with those issues, let's see, did they improve enough with it being a leader class to justify that leader class price? Well, what they added was new hands. Still no wrist rotation, but at least now you can open the fingers. They added shoulder pieces. They added an alternate set of null rays because of the shoulder pieces. They added a plastic version of the cape, and they added a throne. So if you think that shoulder accessories, a cape, a couple of extra null rays, new hands, and a throne is worth a jump from Voyager to leader, then cool. You win, man. And I'm happy for you if you think that that value makes sense mathematically. But a lot of fans said it was the Voyager sold with a bunch of doodads that we really didn't need. Oh, I guess he also had a crown. I actually thought that the leader class price for this guy was probably worth it, only because I know the cost of production. And something like that throne was going to take up a lot of room on a mold plate. I think the pricing was accurate, but I just don't think it was a necessary release. I don't know if anybody really wanted or needed a Coronation Starscream bad enough to justify it, because I can't speak for where you live, but here, Coronation Starscream went on deep discount, and even then it sort of struggled to sell. I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one because it's not actually a leader class figure. It's a Voyager with some doodads. And to me, that just doesn't sit right. And for a lot of fans and a lot of voters, that didn't sit right. And it means this guy comes in at the number 5 slot. Coming in at number 4, we stick with Studio Series 86 and this little embarrassing thing. This is Steeljaw. A couple of people that voted for it said it's barely even a figure. It hardly does anything. And to even make it look right, you got to use like extra parts and pieces, and things got to come off, and you can't just store everything, and it's a nuisance. I agree. This is embarrassing. I got it. I'm glad that I got it, I guess. But as soon as I took it out of the package, I was like, well, ain't this thing a little rip-off? Enough fans feel the same way that Steeljaw takes the number 4 slot. And now we are into the top 3. And of the top 3, would you believe that I only own one? And that one is, well, number 3, and it's Siege Shockwave. And I've said this many times in the past. Look, this is spectacular. It's an excellent Shockwave. He didn't need any of the doodads that they threw in the box with him. There was no need for this guy to be sold as a leader. It's a fine enough Voyager, and it has been sold as a Voyager since, in multi-packs mostly. But you didn't need all those ship pieces and bits and stuff. It was a waste of design. It was a waste of molding. It was a waste of money. I said when I bought this guy, because I feel like I'm being ripped off, because even with all that junk in the box, he's still only 212 lousy grams, easily about 115 grams less than what a leader class should be. It's not a leader class. It's a great Voyager, but it's nothing about it. Much like with 86 Hot Rod, and there's nothing about it that's ever going to make it a Voyager. There's nothing about this that's ever going to justify and make it a leader. It's just not. It's a great figure. It's just not a leader. A lot of people said the same thing that I said. Leave the doodads out, sell it for the correct price. When I bought this, I felt so ripped off that I said, I'm never ever going to buy another Shockwave. That's what they did by trying to rip me off. They shot themselves in the foot for me buying any more Shockwaves. And guess what? That was a long time ago now. That was 2019. Here we are in 2025, and I haven't spent 1 penny on another Shockwave. And then guess what? I won't. Maybe you will, but no. I value my bank account a lot more than that. This guy's excellent, but he's the last Shockwave I'll ever need because he was wildly overpriced, and he takes the number 3 slot. And here we are at the top 2. And at number 2, I'm not really going to have anything else to say about this because he's appeared on so many lists recently, but it's this. That's right, Legacy Blitzwing. And like, it's a fine Blitzwing. If you could get it at a Voyager price, it's fine. You didn't need those hands thrown in there. It added no value at all. And everybody said the same thing. It adds nothing. Take the hands out, sell it as a Voyager. The fact that it was sold as a leader class is actually pretty darn criminal, if you ask me. And that's a shame, because it's not something that's that bad. I've been hard on it, but I've been hard on it because it's not a leader. If I'm going to measure this Blitzwing by the metrics of a Voyager class, man, does he succeed well. But if I'm going to measure this Blitzwing on the metrics of a leader class, he just doesn't live up to the hype. And for that reason, he takes the number 2 slot. And now here we are at the very tippy top, number 1. And at number 1, this one won by a landslide. Not as big of a landslide as last week's number 1 did, but it was the clear winner. There is a big difference here of about 25 votes this time between number 2 and number 1. And the number 1 Transformer that's the least bang for your buck is this Haslab Unicron. It struggled to fund. I get that it's bigger than other Titan class offerings. A lot of people said the problem is Titan class in general is overpriced. So then when you had this that's a little bit bigger, not a lot bigger, everybody said a little bit bigger, and I agree, it is a little bit bigger, and then you charge, you know, double or more, depending on the Titan, double or more a Titan price, It's just not there. The engineering's not that special. He scrunches up and his whole series of panels just goes around him. He's a panel former. All of those have to fit together. He's a shell former, so the engineering's not special. His articulation is there mostly, but it's cumbersome and awkward to get any sort of a dynamic pose other than standing straight on. I analyzed this guy to the ends of the earth when the funding period was open, and I said, don't fund this because it's not worth it. And you know what? Enough fans agree with that assessment that Haslab Unicron, even if you love it, even if you think it's wonderful, and it is wonderful, there's no doubt about it, it looks impressive, but was it worth 600, almost 600 US? I know people in Canada that by the time it was all said and done paid about 11 to 1300 for that Unicron. That's insane. It needed to do more to be worth that. And there are better engineered versions of Unicron out there that cost less. And for that reason, Unicron takes the #1 slot for least bang for your buck. 10 down to 1 once again, and man, was there a story told there about things that are fine, but were sold at a price point that was higher than what they should have been. And it's important to make those comparisons and keep those comparisons in mind. Like, if we don't, that's how we get taken advantage of. Other ones that had votes were, let's see, Studio Series, Bumblebee movie, Soundwave. Apparently there's some tabbing issues. He turns into a nothing, really, and doesn't have a really dynamic robot mode. What else do we have here? The Monster Hunter, like Optimus Prime, what is it, Rathlios or whatever it is, crossover. Yeah, I get that. And the silver one, Expanse, the X-Men Expanse being overpriced. Oh, I like this one. The Prime 10th Anniversary Hades Megatron, because the Hades Arms Micron is prone to just crumbling to bits. So you paid all that money for essentially just Voyager Megatron. 86 Springer, I talked about that before. Even with all of his doodads, he's only 190 grams. Like, it's nowhere close to a leader class. Legacy Armada Starscream, somebody said he felt more deluxe class price point. Legacy Armada Megatron, again, sold as a leader, and the people that voted for him said he should have been a Voyager. Runabout, because he was exclusive. Earthrise Optimus Prime, apparently wasn't a leader. The Hot Wheels Optimus Prime with the trailer. How is that thing the price that it is? It's just a Hot Wheels. It's just a little diecast. Here we call them dinkies, right? Legacy United Soundwave, because he sold at leader price. Why? Because they added one more cassette. Because the previous Soundwave with 2 cassettes sold as a Voyager. This Soundwave with 3 cassettes sells as a leader all of a sudden. Combiner Wars Computron, I thought he was worth it, but I understand that he was a little bit more than the going price for an entire combiner at the time. What else do we have here? MPG Raiden, 86 Spike, G-Creation Shuriken, Missing Link Bumblebee, Haslab Deathsaurus, Supreme Class Cheetor, going way back, Beast Machines Night Scream, United Stepper, because it was an import from Japan, very expensive, War for Cybertron, Megatron, the Voyager class one, the Siege one, I should say. What else do we have here? The Nemesis Prime, Cryotech, Japanese first edition Optimus Prime from Transformers Prime, Legacy United, Buzzsaw, because you have to buy everything else to get that little Buzzsaw. What else do we have here? Generation Selects, Legacy Earth Mode Hound, because he was in that multi-pack. Generation Selects Overbite, though he's terrible on the aftermarket. Again, at regular retail, he was still quite expensive because it's a Japanese import. Legacy Cybertron Metroplex. I think that one's a bit unfair, personally. 86 Optimus Prime, Siege Springer, which we didn't talk about. We talked about the 86 Springer, but apparently the Siege Springer, I thought the Siege Springer was worth it too. Studio Series, Mirage from Rise of the Beasts. What else do we have here? The Lewin Resources Metroplex, because it's just so big, heavy, hard to handle, needs 2 people to kind of transform. The recommendation, though a lot of people are leaving it in robot mode, the recommendation is not to do that, because over time it'll possibly warp the ratchets and stuff, so I hear. Oh, Build-A-Figures, like Mandroid, because you had to buy a whole wave to get the parts for Mandroid, and then the dude didn't even have knees or elbows. Same sort of thing for Macadam. Robosen Grimlock, MP43, I think that's the Beast Wars Megatron, who's known to have breakage, especially at the pelvis and hip area. Legacy RC, the recent Haslab Lio Kaiser, who is a little bit overpriced, that's true. And just for good measure, let's say Legacy Animated Bumblebee, who is essentially another example of a Scout class being sold as a deluxe, and I agree with that. Those and more. Did your favorites make the list, make the mentions at the end, or was yours the honorable mention of Chromia? I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and don't forget, not for a moment, not for a second, that you right there, you do make a difference in the world. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way right here inside the videos.